the average concept of a vampire, which probably we all have in this room, is that of a blood-sucking beast with obviously pointed fangs, and that goes around ravishing young virgins by night and sleeping in a coffin by day. That, as far as I'm concerned, and as my investigations have led me to believe over the years, is absolute, sheer, unadulterated nonsense. That sort of vampire does, indeed never has, existed.
Many people would say to me, yes, but what was it? What was it that was actually visiting? You know, that was trying to harm this person, that was trying to make communication. Was it the spirit of some deceased person? Or we can immediately rule out, as I said to you before, anything like a vampire, which I said is nonsense. We do not know what these things are. That's what I'm trying to find out. That is my life's work.
You know, they always say the devil comes in different forms, and evil does come in different forms, and any form can be created for good or for evil. So I would believe it was more on that level than actually having flying vampires in Highgate Cemetery.
I've come to understand that ghosts do not have intelligence as such. They are merely reflections of objects, of people, of even reflections of animals. These objects are somehow transmitted, probably involved events in the past. They can replay themselves and can be witnessed by unsuspecting people. It seems to be the case that the more sensitive a person is, the more likely they are to see it, or them, or whatever they are. But I've often stressed, and I do again tonight, that that sort of unexplained entity or apparition almost certainly has no intelligence. It's just a replayed image which can appear, and does appear, and do appear at certain times and at certain locations.
I believe, like in very old houses, or where, like castles, people, or old roads with highwaymen and all these stories, to me it's like an impression that can appear when the energies are right. Like, I don't know, things normally go very, very cold when you experience these things. But it's like the walls, everything, all the knowledge is in the walls, it seeps in.
There's a second category of unexplained phenomena, which I'm very reluctant to talk about. But I will talk about it, but I'm very sceptical. And that is the case of entities that seem to have some sort of independent intelligence. Indeed, entities that are reported as trying to have some sort of communication with their human counterparts. They're trying to make contact. A lot of cases of psychic phenomena occur along the course of ley lines. It's quite conceivable that, in a way, again not understood by science, or even occultists completely, that there's some energy within the earth itself that is conducive to or attracts in some way psychic energy. If you take the case of the, to use the word in quotes, ghost, vampire, Highgate Cemetery, you'll find the early church often used to build upon older sites which were built on ley lines because of the potential energy source they had, which were understood by earlier people. And to follow out that theory, we actually we found this was exactly the case. There is a ley line starting from the Circle of Lebanon in Highgate Cemetery. It crosses across to the Flask pub, which is only a few hundred yards away. It then crosses through the old Gatehouse pub. It then goes down North Hill and it passes through Hillcrest, which is now a big block of council flats. And then it continues on through Highgate Woods. There have been cases in the Flask of which I've personally investigated, of there being a tall, dark figure seen there. The clock stopping, glasses flying off shelves, and drops of temperature and things like that. At the Gatehouse pub, read, clocks mysteriously stopping, glasses falling off shelves, and people seeing a tall, dark figure. Where it crosses Hillcrest, Hillcrest used to be the site of an old convent, and it was made into council flats, a huge block of a few years ago. One particular flat in that council block, in fact, the psychic activity in there became so horrendous that in the end, they were forced to move out. And again, there was a man and his wife, and they had 3 children. And the children were petrified and they kept seeing a tall, dark figure in the front room. And hearing noises, and there were drops of temperature. The cat was petrified. It used to arch its back and spit at something invisible in the corner. The line then crosses an old, ancient Roman settlement at Highgate Woods. And again, there have been reports of a tall, dark figure seen in and around that old settlement, which is now covered over. So, if that theory is correct, you have to say that the tall, dark figure seen at Highgate Cemetery is the same figure which is appearing along different parts of the ley line, which is not so outrageous as it seems, because if psychic energy is entrapped on ley lines, it could possibly move along them, and the figure wouldn't vary much in its description. There is a possibility that the energy, the psychic energy, the ghost, the vampire, if we must use that word, at Highgate Cemetery is still there. Because you often find that psychic energy doesn't adhere to human rules and regulations. If it appears in the first place, it can remain there for quite some time. Years, sometimes decades. The actual unexplained phenomenon, the spectre, the apparition there, it's never been exercised properly.
If the malevolent psychic entity, which David has described, is indeed trapped within the channel of a ley line, surely it is entirely possible that the ghostly figure, last seen in the 1960s, may reappear at any given time. Could the strange events at Highgate Cemetery be replayed in the 21st century?